All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to our story time tonight. We're going to chat with Lynn, my sweet friend. And just by way of introduction, I'm Megan Goff, Diamond Ambassador with Plexus. And I'm going to introduce Lynn, and she's going to share her story. But I will share just a quick snippet on how I met Lynn. So last spring, I think it was in the end of March, we were at a friend's wedding, a guy that I grew up with. My mom babysat all the time. He hung out with my siblings, and I married a girl from Pella, Iowa. And so we went out for his wedding, stayed the weekend. And when I was at the wedding, I was admiring the pianist that played for the wedding ceremony, and then happened to sit by that pianist at the reception. And it was Lynn Hauserl, and she's going to pop on, but I will say we instantly connected because we both have big families. So she's a stage ahead a little bit with her children, but she has 5, I have 6, and we just hit it off. We chatted. We both are into music and teaching and performing, playing worship music and things like that. So I'm going to turn it over to Lynn. So that's a little bit of how we met. And Lynn's going to share her perspective on how we met. And then I'm just going to kind of ask her questions. We're going to talk about her journey and how this all panned out. It's pretty fun. Okay, so Lynn, you can go ahead and unmute. Oops, hang on. You're not unmuted. Let me unmute you. There we go. Oops, it's there.
Am I good now?
Yes.
Okay. Awesome. Yeah. I just really love that introduction because that really was life-changing for me. I want to just begin with how I was physically that day, because I think that this really will shed some light onto why I know that God led me to Plexus. So that day, I remember excited to play for my friend's wedding, my friend Candy. So I was friends with the bride and had taught with her before. And but I just remember that day, I was just not well, physically, mentally. So even though I was excited to play, I just remember having kind of this dark feeling. And for the past maybe 18 months, I had been kind of retreating from people. So, when I played for that wedding, and then when I was sat at a table with this family with all of these little kids, what really connected us is the fact that Megan just began talking to me. So I think I would have sat at that table looking straight ahead and not engaged in conversation, which was not like me. So my health had been declining, and that was part of it, just not really wanting to engage with people. And really, Megan never talked about Plexus, but it was just her sweet self engaging me in conversation that night when I went home. I had like this little flicker of hope. And I didn't know anything about Plexus at that point. So when we became Facebook friends and I began reading her journey, that hope grew. But just remember, the beginning of that was simply a 2-hour time period of building a small relationship that now has grown into, I'm pretty sure, a lifelong friendship. So yeah, that was the beginning. And then I just, read her journey. And I think all of that hope just began building. And I, began thinking, what if this could help me? I can see what it's done for them. What if it could help me? And I think in that time, I began researching, just like a lot of people do, like a lot. And I think it's also worthy to note that during that time, I wondered if I could just do this myself and didn't need Plexus. So I researched. I had these lists of ingredients, actually went to a store, bought a whole bunch of supplements, all these different things, turmeric, beetroot, all of these things. And I was just going to put this together myself, which I realized the very next day with my husband. I have a hard time swallowing capsules, and I had just bought 20 bottles of capsules. And he was like, how are you even going to know when to take these, or how are you going to take all these pills every day? And so it was kind of a process getting to the point of finally ordering. And I actually this morning, in anticipating sharing tonight, I went back to the beginning of my messenger with Megan. And it was really interesting reading our beginning conversations. And she was just so sweet, and she continued to follow up. I ignored her. She just was just so kind in the way she reached out. So I think that piece has trickled down to me. So when people ignore me, I don't get offended. I don't take it personally. Anyways, I'm getting a little bit off track, but I began the products. It was May 7. So I think I joined maybe the last days of April, and I began the products May 7, and had some detox things. I had a headache, things like that. After a couple of weeks, I was like, I don't know if this is really helping me. And I think at that point, if I go back in our messages, I said something like, I'm not sure if this is helping me. And then Megan just continued to encourage me to keep going. And then it was maybe 30 days in, and I could really tell my outlook on life was improved. So that was the whole mental health piece that really was changed. My energy had increased greatly, and I could tell something was happening. So, and it wasn't really, I don't think at that point, because after 30 days, people weren't necessarily saying, oh, what are you doing? But then it was maybe in the next 30 days that lots of people were asking, what I was doing. So I had started to lose a little bit of weight. So that's always an outwardly visible thing that people notice. So for me, in those dark 18 months prior, I had gained 35 pounds. So I'm 5 foot tall. And so that was very noticeable. So I had started losing some of that weight. A big piece of that was my diet. And a big piece of that was I cut sugar as much as I could possibly. And I had overate sugar in a big way. So every day I had chocolate and lots of sugar in my coffee. So I had stopped that, but I feel like Plexus helped me do that. So I was starting to lose weight. So let's see. So May and June, those were my first 2 months with the products. People started to ask me, so what is it that you're doing? And I would always say, well, I've cut sugar. And I would just kind of leave it at that. And, so it came to a point where that began to feel like a lie, because I would never tell them about Plexus. And I think I just had this fear. I think fear is just, it's a lie. But I had this fear, what will people think of me? They'll think I'm crazy, even though this is helping me so much. So it finally came to a point, I know it was a Sunday night. It was a friend from church, and I did the same thing. She said, you seem different. What are you doing? And I said, well, I'm cutting sugar. And then I came home that night, and I was like, this is crazy. Like, why wouldn't I tell this person what I'm doing? So I ended up calling that friend that night and just saying, I don't know why I was afraid to say this, but, this is Plexus. And, I explained everything. And then I think the second piece that's good to say is our oldest son just graduated from college. He's an engineer and lives in Northwest Iowa. So he lives about 5 hours away from here. So we don't see him a lot. And it was the end of June, and he came home for a visit and hadn't seen me for quite a while. And he's very in tune to me and could tell right away. I mean, he walked in the door and he just said, "Mom, you're different. You know, what's happened? What are you doing?" And gave me a big hug. And I did the same thing with my son, Adam. I said, "Well, you know, I've cut sugar." And then, and then it was kind of like, okay, this is crazy. This is my son. I should be able to tell him. So this was a Saturday, and I just told him. And you know, we told all of our kids. Our kids are older. They're 18 to 23. So, to be honest, I've always taken something. So there's always capsule bottles in the cupboard. So we didn't think it needed a big family meeting. You know, my husband knew what I was doing and was supporting me, but we didn't really talk to our kids about it. But so that day, it was the end of June, you know, I told Adam about it. And then he said, you know, "Mom, if this is helping you so much, why wouldn't you tell people? You know, this could help so many people." And it was at that point, I'll never forget this. He was like, "So like, where's the information?" So I went into our little closet, and this is when we still got the Success Kit box with the information that's now in our back office. But I got the box. It was still all wrapped up. I had never even opened it from when I got it back in May. And, you know, together, my son and I opened this up and took all the pieces out, and he put the DVD in the computer, and he was just like, "Mom, you know, why wouldn't you do this?" And so that was actually the end of June, and I began sharing the beginning of July. So there was about a week in between there where, and I read all of this in my messenger. I messaged Megan. I said, "I'm ready to share. I really want to tell people about this." And then it was about a week of back and forth. Okay, is today the day? And then, yeah, so it was 1 week later, and then I just shared, and that was kind of the beginning of, you know, people knowing what I was doing. And something happened to my screen. I'm not sure. Can you guys still hear me?
Yeah, Darla started screen sharing for some reason. I should be able to fix that for some reason. There we go.
Okay, here it is. Okay. So do you want to jump in, Megan? I don't know. I am 6 months in right now. So November 7 was 6 months. I have not missed a dose or a day. I have lost exactly 35 pounds. Those are the pounds that I gained in those 18 months. I had very high cholesterol and high blood pressure, and those are in good normal range. I am in no need of an antidepressant, and just have like a renewed outlook on my life, which as a teacher is really great. I made a post today just about how I just feel I can get through a whole teaching week where before I would, you know, nap every day after school. So that kind of a thing is just totally life-changing too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you for sharing that. I was going to ask you what products you take.
Okay.
Or what you started with, maybe.
Yeah. I began on the Triplex, and I took that. I am also in menopause. So in all of my research, I had read about the X Factor Plus, and so it was month 2 that I added that to the Triplex. And I also added the Omegas. And then when we did the Inflammation Incineration Challenge, I was introduced to Ease, which really targets inflammation. And just a little side note, I had a hip injury 15 years ago, playing softball with our church softball team. And I collided with a man in center field and it knocked my shoes off my feet. So it was like a big impact. So I've spent time, with the chiropractor and just different things, but I've had like a really painful hip to the point where sitting on the floor with kids at school I couldn't like cross my legs. So I began ease when we did that. I think that might have been September or October, and I have not stopped that. So I don't have that pain in my hip anymore. So to me, that's completely life-changing. And so I now take Ease, the Omegas, the Triplex, X Factor Plus. And then I do, I've been trying Block occasionally. And I just feel like I want to know how I respond to these different products. But yeah, the Triplex is my foundational products that I just take them if I go away anywhere, they just come with me. I have a little bag I put them in. And like I said, I don't take capsules like a normal person, like drink them down with water. So mine, I always have to have like a little tiny scoop of yogurt or cottage cheese or peanut butter or something, applesauce. But that's just how I do it, and it works.
Wow. I didn't know that about you. That's cool. So what's your thoughts on consistency with the products? You already shared that you haven't missed a day.
I haven't missed a day, and I won't. I think, the mindset really matters. And to be honest, when, our kids are older, my husband has a very good job, but when we decided to have me do this, the finances were a concern. And I think I just decided this will work. Mm-hmm. So I didn't go into it. I feel like sometimes friends will go into it almost trying to prove that it won't work, which I find really interesting. So I really try to counsel people ahead of time. This is not an overnight thing. This is years of built up in our system, and it's going to take time, which is going to take money. It's going to take time for you. So just to be prepared for that, but also to work with it, to really do what you're being told to do, what you eat, the water. For me, I wasn't a water drinker, but Megan was saying, you really need to drink water. You need to drink water. She would post about it. She would talk about it. And I was just like, okay, I'm going to do this. So I had to kind of play a little mental game. I would say, okay, today I'm going to drink one more 8-ounce glass of water than I did yesterday. And I just played like this little game. And I would be very proud of myself. I have friends who put a jug in the fridge with a line, this is the water I need to drink today. I'm at school all day, so I just sip on water throughout the day. Mm-hmm. And this is interesting too. I've had some, teacher friends say, well, I know I should drink water, but I don't have time to go to the bathroom. Well, along with my decision, I decided I am worth it. I'm important. Water matters. And if a teacher friend has to wait for me to get back from the restroom, that's okay. So I do go to the bathroom during the day, where all these other years of teaching, I would go all day without going to the bathroom. So I didn't drink water, So that was life-changing, that right there. I feel like that's like really helped my skin. Just, wow. I mean, it's so simple, but.
When people are looking for weight loss, what do you think helped you drop the 35 pounds? Was it just simply when you didn't have the craving for sugar that you think that was really the clicker for you, or the water intake? What do you think?
Yeah, I think it's a combination. I think I had someone say, is this all in your head? Like, you're taking these supplements and do you just think you don't want the sugar? And it's like, well, No, I don't think so. But yeah, it might seem too good to be true. But I think the consistency, I think friends that struggle, when we talk it through, could never find a routine with the products. So if you don't take the products every day, then you're not going to have those results. So I think, first of all, it's deciding I'm doing this. It's important and this is going to work. So I think that helped. And in that, I did have, maybe in the first month, I had lost 5 pounds. So again, I had like this little flicker of hope that maybe something was happening here. Um, and, I'll just say this, that over the years, well, I was basically pregnant for 5 years straight because our kids are 1 year apart. So the week we had our fifth child, our oldest, our firstborn, turned 5. So in there, we had 5 babies. So I had, many times where I was like, after that, trying to lose that weight. And I used different methods. One time I remember just simply really reducing what I ate. So it was kind of like really unhealthy. And then all of that weight came right back. So to me, I think, this was so different and it made so much sense scientifically to me that I believed this could work, like it had, and I think those stories that we hear are so important too, because I could relate to other people, real people. Yeah. But so when I made the decision, what I also did, I took action and I emptied my desk drawer at school of all of the chocolate and little candies. I would keep them there. And it was, just really unhealthy that way too. Kind of like no one knows I'm doing this. And, as I talk to more people, a lot of people have things like that where it's kind of like this hidden, or I'm going to, drive through the drive through and no one's going to know I'm doing this. And, all of that is just kind of like in the dark. So I feel like Plexus has like lifted all of that off too. And I can just freely live my life now without being like trapped in thinking I need that stuff that was, fighting against my health.
Mm-hmm. Do you eat any sugar at all?
Yeah, I do.
Just for
Like,
fun or for a treat?
yeah, I have a treat. Like, and then when I have a treat, like my daughter got married in August, and going to the wedding, I was like, I am having one of those awesome cupcakes at the reception, and I'm going to love it. It's going to be so fun to have. I think with me, it was, it was so over the top what I was doing before. It wasn't like an occasional cookie or brownie or cupcake. It was just like this constant every day. I would look forward to it, I would take a few for the ride home from school, which is 10 minutes, So just all of that. I think educating yourself really helps too, because I had never really read about sugar and what it does to us. So when I did that, I think it really clicked too. I could understand, like knowledge is power. Like I was like, why? I don't want to do that, And then, yeah, if you cut sugar, if you want to lose weight, cut sugar. I think sugar is what really makes us gain the weight. Also, I wasn't a water drinker. So, and it's very worthy to note that before Plexus, for my whole life, I mean, I remember as a teenager, so I don't know how far before that, but I would basically have a bowel movement 1 day a week. Okay. So that's not healthy. And no wonder I felt lousy. And it was just totally normal to me. So now it's like 2 or 3 times a day, which is healthy and makes perfect sense that I feel great. And my husband, he didn't have that issue quite as bad, but he also really notices the regularity and how much that makes you feel more energized as well. So not sluggish and tired and yeah, so.
Awesome. Thank you. What about exercise? Did you increase cardio or anything like that?
Let's see, I did a 6-week class where I went 3 days a week to a group class at the local gym, and I really enjoyed that. And during that, they took our measurements. It was right when school got out, because that's typical, for teachers. It's like, okay, school's out, now I can focus on me.
Mhm.
So I had signed up for this 6-week summer shred, something like that. And just a wonderful group of people, learned a lot about muscles and so forth. I did not continue on with that. So I did it for 6 weeks, and there they took our measurements and weighed us. And during that 6-week time, I was also in my second month of taking Plexus. And I think I lost 7 pounds during that time. So, I'm sure that helped. It was not cardio, it was more lifting of weights.
Okay.
So I did that. And now basically I try to walk. I'm not a real great exerciser right now.
Okay. Well, that's good to hear because it gives people hope that you don't have to be perfect all
Yeah.
the time, every day. We need to be consistent with the products, yes, and as consistent as we can be with reducing sugar, eating well, and
Yeah.
moving our body in some way. So let's shift gears a little bit. We're going to talk a little bit about how you came around to the idea of sharing, which I know when we signed up, we were on vacation in Florida. I specifically remember sitting on the condo in the bedroom in the condo and chatting with you after you had joined or whatever, kind of walked through it together. And then I said something to you about sharing, and you're like, "Oh, well, I could be really good at this, but I need to try the products first." And I was like, "Okay, let's see what happens with this lady." Um,
Yeah.
because sometimes people tell me that and then nothing happens. So I don't think I said anything to you necessarily between that point and then when you came to me in the beginning of July and said, "Okay, I'm ready to share."
Right.
What was your first thing that you shared? Did you share your testimony? Did you share a graphic? Did you share a picture? What did you say?
Yep. I shared a picture of myself. And it was really fun. I had my daughter, Sophie, go outside with me and the dogs, and she just took some pictures, and it felt really funny because I think prior to that, I didn't want anybody to take my picture. I just felt lousy. So it felt kind of funny, and I was like, I wonder if anyone in our neighborhood is watching us do this little photo shoot. But it was really fun. It was a sweet time. And at that point, I think I had probably lost half of that 35 pounds, but I just felt magnificent. I just felt energetic. I felt hopeful. I knew something was, happening. And so I shared that picture, just a picture of me standing outside and with the pink drink. And then I think it was like this long. So I think I just shared about how I had, not been feeling well at all, for the last almost 2 years. And I'm so thankful for my renewed health. I don't think I mentioned Plexus. I don't think I said Plexus in that first post. I'd have to go back and look. Because what's interesting is I think over 100 people liked that. And before this, I was not on Facebook. I would just kind of check if my kids were on it. I would say happy birthday to my kids. I really wasn't a Facebook person. So I had all of these likes. And then the very next post I did, it was about Plexus and the products. And I think I might have had like 2 likes. So I found that kind of interesting. Some people and I would probably be the same way possibly, but I think some people are afraid to, publicly like something that's talking about a product or whatever, but just know that they're seeing it and they're reading it. And just because they don't like it doesn't mean that it didn't speak to them and plant a seed for the future, I think.
So tell me what clicked for you in light of sharing. Like, obviously you got added to our team page, so you've seen the culture, you were maybe listening to some things, because I wasn't like, hey Lynn, it's time to make a post. Like, I didn't nurture you. What was it? What clicked for you there? Obviously your son said, Mom, you should share this, but was there something else that clicked?
Yeah, I think I had the same thing that many people have. If they can, why couldn't I? That kind of thing. But on the other side, I have two jobs. I'm a full-time teacher. I'm a 50% time director of music at a church. Life is full. So I wasn't necessarily looking for another source of income or another job. I did like the idea of having the products being covered, generating an income to cover that. So that was appealing. I also want to say this. A lot of people that I'm working with, their why they would want to do this business is, they might want to stay home with their babies. So I'm, closer to 50 years old, and my why is I want to go see my babies when that happens. Okay. So I have kind of a long-term goal of having the freedom and the flexibility to be able to do that. And I just feel like, I know that God placed this opportunity in my hands at this time because He wants to honor that desire of my heart to be able to physically go across the country and see my kids wherever they end up. We have one out of college. We have 3 in college. We have 1 in high school. So they may not all end up in the town I live in. So my husband and I really want to be able to go and help them, go and see them. And, being a teacher is not very flexible. And I don't have that freedom. So for the future, I am, building this business, and I'm going to do this. So
that's awesome. So tell me a little bit about the timeline. So from your first post to when you went silver, and then, silver is when you add 3 ambassadors, and then maybe a little bit of your timeline journey.
Okay. So when I went silver, the way I did that was very simple. My son, who said, Mom, you should tell people about this, who also now has a full-time job, he said, you know what? I gained all this weight in college. I want to do this. This would be good for me. So he signed up. So I did not. And I was like, are you sure you want to do this? And he was like, yeah, I want to do this. So he was my very first level 1 ambassador. And then his fiance also joined. And then my husband joined at that point. So those were my first 3. So that was very not scary because, those were close people to me. But it was during that time, because then I think Megan put on my Facebook wall, which it was still like a new thing for me to be on Facebook, Lynn is silver. So then I had, people like, what is that? What's Plexus? What is that? So it created, I think, that small first success. It's not small, it's actually big. Being silver, becoming silver is actually big because I think that really builds your own belief. So yeah, I don't mean that that's small. It's actually huge to go silver. But it can be simple. You can do that in a day. Okay. You really can. It doesn't need to be, hard. You can make that very simple if you talk to those people very close to you. And I have, many family members that are not interested, and that's okay. That is totally okay. But I think they still love and support me in what I'm doing. But, I think, okay, so the timeline, so I went silver very quickly. And that was July. And then in July, now remember I'm a teacher, so July and August, I'm not teaching. So I was home and I just had time, and I don't have little babies. My kids are older. And that was wonderful. And that is actually what really got the kite off the ground. It really, I just was daily, I would many, many hours a day. So it didn't just magically happen. I was telling Megan earlier today, there were a couple days where I was sitting at the kitchen table with all of my notes, and I had just been researching and reading and listening to videos, listening to calls, messaging Megan constantly. What about this? What about that? And then that evening, this happened a couple of days, my husband came home and I was still sitting in the same place. And he was like, have you moved the whole day? So big activity in July and August. That's what propelled the growth so quickly. I think it was August that I went gold. And then it was the end of September that I went senior gold. And then that was thrilling. And in October, when we went to Leaders Retreat, it was just fun to be senior gold at that point. So that was a goal that I had, that I would be senior gold by Leaders Retreat. So I think, setting goals, like right now I have a goal about Ruby, and, I'm going to hit that goal. I'm going to do what I can to make that happen. I think that is really helpful too. And just believing that you can do it, and doing the simple things that we do, but doing them every day consistently. It's kind of like with the products. I feel like, the 90-day rule with the products, I often tell people, give it 90 days to really be able to tell what's happening. More than 30 days. Well, it's kind of the same thing with this business. Who I reach out to now in the beginning of December, it may be a few months, it may be 6 months, it may be 1 month, it may be 4 months. So I think it just takes time. I think timing for people is so personal, because it's your health and it's your finances and it's your situation. So, and I think what our job basically is to share our story. Because I think people really want to know two things. They want to know, how did this help you? What did it do for you personally? And then will it help me, or is there hope that this could help me? So I think those two things are addressed when we share our story. Because even now, it's been 6 months that I've been taking the products, about 4 months that I've been sharing. I don't feel like I'm selling anything. I feel like I'm connecting people. I'm connecting to people, which is like a new thing for me, because I had been kind of retreating from people. So that part I love. And I made a post about this recently too, where now when I see people, I want to just say, what's your story? What makes you you? Like, and I think that's so helpful in this business to connect to people, because think back to the beginning. Megan did not have to connect with me at that reception. She didn't have to. She was busy. I mean, she could have just stayed busy with her kids. And I remember someone dropped some popcorn, because that was like a little appetizer at this reception, so now there's this popcorn on the floor, and she had to go look for a broom, and, she could have just not engaged me at all. And her kindness is what attracted me to her. And then the rest, here we are.
So would you say that relationship building, doing those things, is completely tied to success with this?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think, another thing, my quick success, in all honesty, I'm in a community where I am visible. I'm a teacher. I've been a piano teacher before I was back teaching in a school. I was teaching piano for 10 years and I had, 58 students. I play in churches all the time. I play for weddings and funerals. So I have these positions that people see me. And so then when my health began changing, those people, I'm not necessarily close to all those people, but I'm in a position where people see me. So then people would notice things.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that intrigued people. What is this? Or, what is she doing? Things like that. So I had a lot of people in the beginning reaching out to me. But I also, because of my renewed health, I would look for opportunities to connect with people, which also led to more success, I would say.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So what have been your biggest fears, or a biggest fear? Would you be willing to share that? You shared a little bit about fear of what people would think.
Yeah. I didn't have fear. I'm going to say one that I didn't have. One fear I didn't have was, what if these products don't work?
Mm-hmm.
Here I just put myself out on Facebook, and what if this doesn't work? Because that fear was squashed when I did the research.
Mm-hmm.
And I read and I listened and I watched. Okay, so building the belief got rid of that fear. I think my biggest fear, yes, would definitely be still what people think of me. Like, do they think I'm just looking to make money off of them? Do they question my motives if I would reach out and share with someone? That has held me back from reaching out to someone, because I think that they're going to question my motives. But here's the thing. I am putting that on myself. So every day I have to just tell myself, this is not about me. This is about these other people and the gift that this is, because it can change their life.
Mm-hmm.
And again, building that belief, just the people on this call right now, many of these stories I know, from you friends, and, there's just thousands of those. So, yeah, I would say that I wrote some things about fear, and I think maybe Justin gave me these words. So if these are Justin's words, thank you, Justin. Or I'm not sure where I read it, but fear is just a liar running out of breath. Okay? Fear is an enemy. It's a bully. It's the opposite of love. And we overcome fear through love. Perfect love casts out fear. Taking the focus off of myself and putting it into loving others.
Mm-hmm.
So, I know my motives, and I know that my greatest joy is when I can help someone. And you know what? I would bet all of you would agree with that. Okay. Now, is the generating an income a blessing? Yes, it is. It definitely is. And the thing is, we are now able to give more than we gave before. So that right there, I just feel like God led me to Plexus, and I'm going to be faithful in how I use the blessing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Very good. Yes, yes. So right before we wrap up, could you give a top tip or two for those who are curious about this business, wondering what if could it work for me?
Okay.
You can say to those people.
Okay. I did write some things down here. So maybe I could, let's see. Okay. I'm going to just read one quote. Well, two quotes. These are two of my favorite quotes. The first one, I don't know even who made it, but it is this: the best preparation for tomorrow is doing your best today. So I think that would be a tip. Every day, even when you might be down, even when two people quit or you can't get anybody to join your team, even then, especially then, to take a step forward and do something to, maybe it would be watch a training video, maybe it would be to make a post, maybe it would be to contact your upline to get some encouragement, but do something every day, not just once in a while. I think, a lot of people want to see if this is, are you going to continue this? Are you consistent? And I think, we are adding value to people by sharing. We're sharing about the products, we're sharing about the business. A lot of people are praying for financial relief. So if we don't share that, if we don't tell them, they don't know. Mm-hmm. So doing a little bit something every day. And then my second quote I love is by John Maxwell. And it's from a little book that I'm reading right now. And it's, and I don't know if this is like, the best book to read, but it's just like the skinny little book. It's called Success One Day at a Time. And I like to just read little bits of that. I also have, devotion books that I read, but I feel like this builds me up in a different way. It builds my confidence in sharing, in talking to people. So the quote out of that book that I love is this: you will never change your life until you change something you do daily. The secret of your success is found in your daily routine. Okay, so that was kind of life-changing to me. This, sharing, this business, it's not that it's difficult. I mean, it is work for sure, but it is not like the tasks are impossible to do. But I think the hard part is doing that every day, even when you're not seeing big results. Because you just got to remember, those seeds you're planting, and you just have to have faith, that this is going to come through. Also, prayer. I believe prayer matters. So I do pray every day for the Lord to send me or send people to me that need this, either the products or the business. And it's just a very simple prayer, but it's very genuine. I mean it with all my heart. I don't know who those people are. I don't know if they're on Facebook. I don't know if I'm going to meet them in Walmart. I don't know, anything. So, but the Lord does. And I feel like He does order our steps. And if someone else is praying, maybe we are going to be that person that's going to bring them hope. Mm-hmm. Okay, and then here, let me see. Okay, my other tip would be in sharing. And there's this phrase called attraction marketing. And to me, that's fancy words that really mean sharing your life in a genuine way that other people can relate to. And I think, so part of my life is Plexus. It's not my whole life. Part of my life is teaching. Part of my life is church work. Part of my life is having all of these adult children. Part of my life is my dogs I love. So I think, keeping that in mind, people, when they are intrigued by Plexus, they really are intrigued by you. Okay? They really are. It's not the capsules. They're really intrigued by you, your story, what this has done for you every day. And I just think, you know, so we don't have to make this too hard. We are experiencing blessings financially, physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, all of those ways, and share that. Just share how this is blessing you. And educate, you know, we're educating people. I think that's not salesy. I think that adds value to people when we share product information. But I think it's also important for them to see you as a real person and, you know, share your story.
I totally agree. Okay. Yes, yes, yes. Okay, so we have a couple of minutes, so about 5 minutes. Does anyone want, is it okay if we open up for questions, if anyone has any questions? So don't feel bad, don't feel scared to unmute really quick and ask Lynn a question. You're on gallery view now. Anyone have a question for Lynn?
I have a question. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. So Lynn, can you share something specific that you did with the people underneath you? Because I know you've got a large number of silvers underneath you, correct? Mm-hmm. Some training tips that you used helping them on their journey as well in sharing the business side?
Okay. Yes, I think, you know, one of the biggest keys there, and I feel like Megan shared this with me, one of the biggest keys was saying the words to them, you would be great at this. I know you can do this. So speaking the belief into those people, that is one thing. I also, in that crazy time where I was just researching and preparing, and when I decided to share, then I had put together an email, and in there I had put some of my favorite videos, things like that. So then I've given that to my people as well. And then in that email, I had shared my personal testimony. So then when people would say to me, what's Plexus? I would send this email to them. And it was a little bit longer, you know, it's a longer email. So I know some of my ambassadors have shortened it, changed it to be their story. But again, I kind of had set up, you know, just basic information about, you know, the triplex, things like that. And some of the shareable videos I put in there. So I think having that document that you can send out has been very helpful. But telling them, you can do this, I believe you can do this, I think is good too.
I don't know, but
Use. There we go. Okay, we have time for probably one more question. Any other quick questions for Lynn?
Well, I don't have a question, but I have to say that I remember when Megan said that she met a friend at the wedding. And because I've known Megan for a long time, I knew she was very musically inclined. And when she said she met a pianist, I just totally remember that. And then as I got to know you as time went on, I just fell in love with you. And I'm just so excited that you're on this journey with all of us. So I'm excited for your promotion too. So thanks for sharing all this awesome information tonight.
Thanks.
Thank you, Lynn. Okay, we'll pop off here. I'll have it, it's all recorded, so we can share it with our people.
Yay.
All right, thank you, Lynn.
Yep. Bye, everybody.
Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye.